Sorry, fellas. Got a little disconnected there. So I'm still loading up my stuff here, but what do you guys want? You want me to talk about strategy? You want me to go through the slate? What do you want me to do? Game by game, and then you want me to do strategy after? Strategy meaning like bankroll management, contest selection, that kind of stuff. Okay. That's what we'll do. I'm here for the people. You tell me. I'll break down the games. How about this? Yeah, I didn't play the 5 game slate. Honestly, I was not awake yet. I've been waking up so late the past couple days. Um, but so what I'll do is I will go through game by game. Um, we'll go. I'll mention some cash plays, GPP plays, stacks that I like for each game, goalies, etc. Then when we're done, I will transition into some strategy, some contest selection, some bankroll management, any other questions you have, how I build lineups, etc. We'll do that. Sound like a good game plan? Go team. Okay. So I am loaded up and ready to go. Let's go to the first game of the night. We have the Carolina Hurricanes traveling to Buffalo to face the Sabres. Sabres are on a back-to-back. They looked absolutely pathetic last night, losing to the Red Wings. It is going to be Scott Darling in net for the Canes, and most likely, I want to say Chad Johnson's going to be in net for the Sabres. Could be Leonard on the back-to-back, but push comes to shove, I'm going to say Chad Johnson. For me, Carolina's up there. Buffalo's on a back-to-back. They're putrid defensively. They just look like they're going through the motions sometimes. You know, when they're losing, they just kind of just mope around instead of playing hockey, trying to get back into the game. The TSA line, definitely in play tonight. Probably my favorite Carolina stack. Teravainen and Stahl, Aho or Aho. I forget how he wants people to pronounce it. They've been unreal, like unreal heater the past few games, and they're very good. And Buffalo's very bad. Eichel got a hip check by Luke Glendening, and he looked like he hurt his leg a bit. But when he came back, he just didn't look like the same player. He just looked like he was going through the motions. But yeah, Carolina 2, or the TSA line. I guess they're Carolina 2, Carolina 1. Probably Carolina 1 at this point. Definitely my preferred option for Carolina. I think Teravainen is a good cash play. I think Skinner is a good cash play. Aho is becoming a cash game play, but I prefer to go Skinner and Teravainen in cash if you're using Carolina. Again, the top line that I want to use is the TSA line. I do like the Skinner, Rask, and Elias Lindholm line as well for GPPs. I think they're in play as well. Hannafin did look good. And that's, yeah, it's weird because Justin Falk hasn't been doing nothing. and he's only 4,500, which is really cheap, but I don't know if I want to pay for him. I'd rather go Slavin or Hannafin. For me, those would be my preferred options on the blue line. In net, Scott Darling's an interesting play. It's weird because I don't have any data to support this, and I should have looked this up before I came on the show. But it always seems like Buffalo plays better on the second end of a back-to-back than on the first leg. They got, trounced by Vancouver in Buffalo, and then they went to Boston, and they beat Boston. It's like, they're so bad defensively. I think, Darling's in play. I don't know if he's one of my favorite goalie plays tonight, but again, definitely can make a case in the GPP. If it's Chad Johnson in net, I may have some interest, just because Carolina does have the shot volume is always there. I'm not sure how chalk Darling is going to be. Definitely possible. I think Pekka Rinne may be up there, but I don't know because Colorado went off last game. We'll see. But if Chad Johnson's in net, you can make a play for them. Darling's either all or nothing. It's kind of brutal, which makes him a GPP play. Definitely cash fade. But Carolina puts up a ton of shots on goals, and sometimes they struggle to score. That will put Chad Johnson into play in GPPs. I'm not sure you need to go there. If you need the salary relief, 7,100 is an okay punt. Scott Darling's only 100 more, so I'd rather have Darling, which will probably, his ownership will probably be a tad inflated tonight for sure. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs traveling to Montreal to face the Canadiens. It's going to be Charlie Lindgren against, more than likely, Freddie Anderson. Carolina and Montreal have been my flowchart teams to play goalies against thus far. Yeah, don't blame you. Looks like Austin Matthews is going to be back. He's going to be with Nylander and Hyman. Then it's going to be Bozak, JVR Marner, and then Marlowe, Brown, and Uncle Leo, and then whatever the fourth line is. From a Toronto side, hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry. I'm back. Kids. So for the Toronto side, I'm not really sure how I feel about this. It is definitely a decent spot for Toronto, but the thing is, I don't know if Matthews is 100% healthy. Even if he's in, I don't know if I want to pay $7,600 for Austin Matthews right now. I want a game or two to make sure he's still healthy. Of course, that's probably going to screw me. He's going to score 98 goals. But for me, I messed up the lines. I think Kadri is with Marlowe and Brown, right? Yeah. But, yeah, for me, if I'm going to use a line, I think it's going to be Bozak, JVR, Marner. I think they're coming into their own. They're going to get a depth line of Montreal, which has been very effective. Saw the Coyotes when I wrote up Arizona 2 as my deep punt. They went bananas. If it wasn't for the Landeskog hat trick and the Lightning, which we'll get to, going absolutely bonkers, I think Arizona would have been the play, which is insane. But anyway, I really like the Bozak, JVR, Marner line. If you can get Riley up there, 5,200, I think he's in play in any format. Again, Freddie Anderson, 7,600. He's coming off of 42 save shutout against the Devils the other night. I think, when Freddie is Freddie and he's right, he is elite. I wouldn't put him up in the upper echelon of goalies in the NHL just because he does have the awful games and they kind of stick around for a little bit. But I think you can ride Freddie a little bit here. 7,600 GPP play for sure. Looks like Charlie Lindgren is coming back down to earth a bit. I don't know if that has anything to do with how bad Montreal has been defensively. Um, what up, bro? And but yeah, so Montreal, I think Montreal won may actually be chalky. You know, specifically the Pacioretty line with Danault and Shaw. You know, Pacioretty, easily the best player on Montreal. He drives the action. He shoots the puck a bunch. Pacioretty is in play in cash for sure. In play in GPPs for sure. I like that as my top line from Montreal. If you need, the salary relief, what am I looking for here? I cannot find it. The secondary lines for Montreal, I guess I'm not too high on the second line. Galchenyuk, Drouin is a game time decision. I don't know if he's going to be in, and Lekkonen's still out. He's also a game time decision. So for me, I'm probably going to put all the eggs in the basket in GPPs anyway with Montreal 1. Brandon Gallagher is always an interesting cash game play. I think he's also a decent one-off in GPPs just because he is always around, 4,700. Shoots the puck, drives action. I think you can use him in cash tonight for sure. On D, Weber, if you can fit him at 6,000, I think he's in playing cash and GPPs. If you can't get to Weber, Petrie's okay at 3,400 in GPP. Joe Morrow, if he's in at 3,000, although he doesn't see too many even strength minutes, but for 3,000, really, what are you expecting? And Charlie Lindgren, for me, I think this is a fade for me. I understand if you want to use him in a GPP, if you're using Montreal. I'm going to fade in cash games as well. But for me, the only way I'm going to use Lindgren tonight is if I'm going to stack Montreal. I'm not going to, stack two other teams and just plug Lindgren. And I think there's better options that are cheaper tonight. So for me, I'm probably going to have a fade of Charlie Lindgren. So let's move on to the next game of the night, and this is an important game. This will probably decide GPPs tonight. It's the New York Islanders traveling to Tampa Bay to face the Lightning. Okay, so this is a better matchup for Tampa Bay against the Islanders than it was against Dallas. Dallas is a good team. They really don't give up. As crazy as it sounds, they're one of the best defensive teams in terms of scoring chances allowed per 60, etc. So they were 30% owned on a 12-game slate against a decent defensive team and lit them up. Yeah. This is the issue that I have with Tampa Bay. They're 20,000... They're 21,900 to full stack. On this slate, they're going to need 3 goals to hit value. And that's what I said last time against Dallas, and they did it. But this is where, and in cash, Stamkos, Kucherov, all in. Cash, definitely. GPPs, I'm fading. I know this is a good spot. The Islanders aren't the best team defensively. But listen, if they were 30% owned on a 12-game slate and they went off, this is an 8-game slate. They're the same price that they were 2 days ago. They could be upwards of 40%. Like that is just nuts. There is no way that I'm paying that price for that ownership percentage okay. So for me, I honestly think there's only 2 ways to go about this. Tampa's in a great spot. Yeah, they're still too cheap. Okay, so this is what's going to happen if you want to use Tampa Bay, right? I'm fading completely. Okay. I haven't been using Tampa Bay at all this season. I think they're just ridiculous. Their PDO's like just insane. Um, they have to come back down to earth at some point. But they're on an insane heater, one of the best runs I've ever seen, at least from since DFS has started. So either there's no middle ground here. You either completely fade or you go all in. There's no reason to have anything in between. You either go above the field or you're way under the field. I just think being 30% owned on a 12 game slate, they're going to be higher tonight because they're the same price and it's a better matchup. I can give you a house tour if you really want. You can see my Corvette in the garage. So for me, I'm fading Tampa Bay. Again, this is an elite line, the best in the NHL. This is a good matchup. 67, Stingray. Are they capable of scoring 3-4 goals? Absolutely. Do I want any of that at 40%? No. I'm fading. I hope they don't hit value tonight because if they do, they're going to break the slate. But I'm willing to bet that I can find goals elsewhere. I would say that the ownership only got... Yeah, but 30%... Yeah, but 30% on a 12 game in a bad matchup is insane. This is a good matchup for them. It's going to go up. Yes. Now, Tampa Bay 2 is very interesting tonight because they're going to get a secondary matchup. They're going to get a favorable matchup. They're one of my favorite secondary lines tonight, I think. You know, Nashville 2 is up there as well. Minnesota 2, Chicago 2, Pittsburgh 2, LA 2. But people do that. The way to get Tampa Bay at lower ownership as a whole is to use all three and Hedman. I'm fading. Okay. Say they're 35%, right? Okay. So of that 35%, I would assume that, and I'll check on this and I'll get back to you on it because it's very interesting to me. Say they're 35%. Of that 35%, I think at least 50% are going to go Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman. Then I think 40% is just going to stack that line. Stamkos, Kucherov, Nemestikov. Then I think, there's 10% left. I think, 5% of that is just going to, single bullet one of the guys. Single bullet or use just Stamkos and Kucherov. That leaves about, 6-7%. And I think, honestly, Stamkos, Kucherov, Nemestikov, Hedman will, as a four-man unit, will be under 10% owned. That being said, good luck filling out the rest of your lineup. It's possible, though. But for me, Tampa Bay, full fade. Tampa Bay 1, full fade. I think you can make a case for Tampa Bay 2 tonight. I think that's a great way to get exposure into this game. I can definitely get on board with that. Vasi at 8,100 against the Islanders. He's a top 3 goalie in the NHL. I think, Sergei Bobrovsky is definitely the best goalie in the NHL. He was on display, in full display yesterday against the Rangers. But Vasi is definitely up there as one of the best. 8,100 at home against the Islanders. I like the matchup, but the Islanders can score, and so I'm not going to spend 8,100 for Vasi. But you can definitely do it. Just not a personal preference of mine. There are cheap goalies that I really like tonight. So let's talk about the Islanders for a bit. Not huge on the Islanders tonight. Yeah, that's crazy. 9,500 on FanDuel. You can take a hike. Islanders won. I think, they're in play tonight. They're more of a middle of the road, a little bit above middle of the road, because you're going to get them low owned tonight, I believe, especially if people are going to be jamming in Tampa Bay, the Nashvilles, the Blues, etc. Even the Kings are in a decent spot tonight, or the Kings are an afternoon game, I'm sorry. Yeah, Islanders won in play. I like the second line for the Isles too because Barzal is just, all over the ice all the time. They're cheap. There's other cheap lines that I like tonight, and I think I like Tampa Bay too more than I like the Islanders too. But again, Barzal's just a fantastic playmaker. He's on the power play. So if you're not using Vasi and you think this is going to be a decent 5-4 type of affair, I think you can use the Islanders' second line as well. The blue line is actually getting a little bit more defined for the Islanders, which is actually nice for once. Leddy is definitely the clear top option at 5,100. And then Boychuk at 4,600 is the clear second option. I don't mind punting Calvin DeHaan at 3,100. Other than that, I don't really have much interest. Again, Hedman for Tampa Bay. And then Hedman is in play in all formats, I believe. And then you have Sergachev at 4,400, who is probably in play. Definitely in GPPs. You can make a case in cash, depending on your build. And then Thomas Greiss at 7,100. It's a bit interesting. I don't know. This really isn't a leverage spot because with 8 games, even if Greiss, wins, has a one goal allowed on 28 shots, I think, there's going to be another goalie or two that at least come close or surpass that. There's probably going to be a shutout somewhere that no one's expecting. So can you use Greiss if you're using the Islanders? Sure. You're signing up for. It could get ugly. You're going to get him 1%, but it's definitely a GPP flyer only. If you think you're leveraging the field, I don't know if it's really a leverage play tonight, but unless he gets a 51 save shutout, then you're just absolutely demolishing 35% Tampa 1 with 2% Thomas Greiss, but that's probably not the most likely scenario. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Chicago Blackhawks traveling to Pittsburgh to face the Penguins. Another game with awesome defense. Of course, the daunting Penguins defense shut down the Ottawa Senators the other night, which was super disappointing. But anyway, Pittsburgh's the enigma for me. What do you say about Pittsburgh that I haven't already said? They're gonna have ownership because they always do. Again, I think the Malkin line is the better play as a whole unit. You want to get creative and I love to get creative when I use the Penguins. It's the only way to really get full exposure. I like having power play exposure. I think double centering Crosby and Malkin is always an interesting play. Road Crawford, home Crawford, he is overrated. I like going, Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Schultz, something like that. You get the even strength correlation with Kessel and Malkin. You get the power play coordination with all 4. I think that's an interesting way to use Pittsburgh if you're going to use them. I don't think you need to pay for Letang. You can. He's under 6,000 again, but Schultz is only 3,700, and sometimes he's on power play too, but sometimes he does go out there on power play 1. They're trying to preserve Letang for the full season. I don't blame them. This is an interesting game in net. Matt Murray at 7,800 is an interesting play. I wish he was cheaper because if he was down around like 7,400 on DK, I think he would definitely be more in play. I just think it's a little expensive for a fast-paced offensive game with not too much defense. So I'm probably going to fade there. You could take a flyer on a GPP. I think, he has the capabilities of putting up 8 DK points with a win, So can't really dismiss it in GPPs. And on the same side, Corey Crawford, 7,300 is interesting. I have a tough time reading Corey Crawford's ownership because I don't think he's very good, yet he's always higher owned than I think he should be. At his price, if he has some ownership, I think, you should have at least a little bit of exposure to the Penguins. Penguins in cash, always an easy play. GPPs, I like to fade. But with Tampa Bay being super chalk, I think you might get them, the Penguins, a little bit lower owned than expected. So it could be possible. Again, Kane line, definitely the preferred play here. If you're using Pittsburgh, Nisimov, Kane, Schmaltz. I also like Tays, Sod, and that line, Panic at the Disco. I just prefer... you're probably going to see Crosby against Tays, and then Malkin up against Kane. And I think that just a little bit advantage the twos here, both ways. So because Kane's possession numbers, his Corsi numbers, his defensive numbers haven't been very good. So I think from this game as a whole, if I'm going to target in GPP, I'm going to be using the Kane line, and I'm going to be using the Malkin line, or using a little power play creativity from either team, really. It's always a good way to differentiate in a little bit higher ownership games on a medium-sized slate. On D for the Hawks, Keith is day-to-day. I didn't see any news about him. Anisimov, 5,200 is too cheap. Don't expect hat tricks out of him all the time. I know he gets to the net and gets to the dirty areas and scores, but he was my favorite Ranger, and I still have an Anisimov 42 sweater. But he is a good player, and 5,200 is too cheap. Keith is a game-time decision. If you want to use Seabrook at 3,800, man, he's looking more and more like Dan Girardi every day. The dude just cannot skate anymore. But at 3,800, I think, with the shots he takes and the block shots, I think you can make him a viable play. Cody Franson, if he's running the power play unit, 3,600, great value. Punting with Gustav Forsling is interesting at 3,000. He's been playing good. He has some offensive upside. He's only 3,000, and he might see an uptick in minutes if Keith is out. I like that there. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Minnesota Wild traveling to Washington to face the Capitals. The Wild came back against the Predators. They were down 3-0. They won 6-4. This game was at home. Washington just got absolutely zambonied by the Avs. It's going to be Holtby against more than likely Dubnyk. Could be Stalock. I would assume it's going to be Dubnyk. Man, how far has the Capitals just fallen off the map? What do we do here? What do we do? So, this is a game you definitely have to check Adam's line matching article to see who the Koivu... Well, I know it's on the road, so who the Backstrom line is going to match up against. So if Backstrom's going up against Koivu, that means Stahl's going up against Ovechkin. So that would give me a lean towards the Ovechkin line for Washington, although I'm not very high on Washington tonight. It's just their lines are bad. Ovechkin's been struggling. The whole team has been struggling. Goaltend, all facets of their game have been struggling. I don't know if this is a huge breakout spot for them. I don't know. Minnesota's they're getting healthier. They're a good defensive team. Their goaltending has been good. Even though Washington's at home, I like this spot for Minnesota. I think both of the top two lines are in play for Minnesota for sure. The top line is my preferred option. Stahl, Niederreiter, Zucker. Koivu, Granlund is secondary. Um, that Stahl line has been great. They've been really really good. The past couple games, they're definitely up there in terms of who I'm looking at playing tonight. They're up there with the Nashvilles, the St. Louises, the Tampas, the Winnipegs. Yeah, Foligno's with um, they where'd Zucker go? Zucker's with Koivu and Granlund. I still like this. Hello. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of gives me the bump to the Zucker Granlund Koivu line, but I still like that Stahl line, especially a Stahl, Niederreiter, Spurgeon mini. Yeah, Spurgeon's the more offensive defenseman. Don't expect 11 DK points out of him every night, but he's the one who shoots the puck more often. Suter's more of a defensive defenseman. He does get involved on the power play, but if push comes to shove, if they're around the same salary, I'm going Spurgeon more likely than not. Um, so yeah, Spurgeon's more expensive. Suter's 4,700. Dumba, our boy Doomba. I'm a dummy. 3,500 still in play as a punt. The Washington side, I'm not real high on either of these lines here. You want to use Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. I think that's a decent mini with Carlson. It is a little expensive, especially for how bad they've been playing. But it's probably going to be contrarian, which is weird to say. You're going to get them pretty low owned if you think, you know. Yeah, I know Oshie's stoked. I just, that's not a bad line. I just think for the price that you're paying for it, it's not worth it. There's so many better spots tonight. Maybe they break out. Um, Maybe they break out and have 3, 4 goals, but like that's a bad reason to use them, right? Oh, they're due. They're due. That's just a bad reason. Um, if you have a gut feeling, you know, okay, play them. But for me, just looking at how even the eye test, just looking at how they played over the past week, they've been abysmal. So until they can pull their head out of their asses, I'm probably going to fade in GPPs, even though they're going to be probably low owned tonight for all the reasons I just mentioned. In net, Holtby 7,700. So the games after he loses, he's always won this year. That's also a bad stat. Like, that's just a bad stat. Like, you just can't rely on that. But he does seem to bounce back decently. 7,700 is a little steep considering how poor the Capitals have been playing. Can make a case in GPPs. I definitely fade in cash. If you have some Capitals exposure, hope he's not the worst option on the board tonight. He's, middle of the road. Dubnyk, I don't know. He got trounced pretty good last game. Again, GPP for me, no cash for Dubnyk. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Colorado Avalanche traveling to Nashville to face the Predators. So Colorado went absolutely ham. They were the play. Landeskog got a hat trick, which is ridiculous. But now they're on the road. They're going to get the Johansson line or the Turris line. I have to check 80's article. I would imagine it's going to be Johansson. But again, going to have to check. For me, Nashville, one of my top plays of the night. They're probably going to be a little bit chalky. Just because they're priced down. Johansson's 4,600. He actually scored the other game. Maybe that opens the floodgates for them. I just love that top line. Yeah, I like Nashville too again tonight. I think they're in a really good spot. They are definitely not going to get the McKinnon line. They're going to get some ridiculous depth line. Um, I love Kevin Fiala. I'm a huge Kevin Fiala fan. I'm glad he came back from that nasty femur injury. He kind of reminds me of Matt Barzell. Yeah, Tampa Bay 1, Nashville 2. I think, definitely if you're using Tampa, that is a definitely a good way to do it. Um, Matthias Ekholm is still under 4,000. I think that's the defenseman to use if you're using Nashville too. I mean, if you're using Tampa and Nashville, there's no way you're fitting Yossi. So Ekholm, definitely the play there. I love both of the Nashville lines tonight. I think I have a lean to Nashville 1 tonight. I just think they're ready to break out big time. PK's been rough. Him and Emlyn have been getting defensive zone starts like 61% of the time, which is crazy. Like I don't understand that. I don't know why PK is great on offense, so I don't know why they do that to him. But it's gonna be interesting when Ryan Ellis comes back. That defense is gonna be so nasty. But Johansson versus Jordan Stahl, like pick one. They're not going up against each other. Colorado, Tyson Berry's back. Johansson or Stahl? I'd go Stahl just because he shoots the puck. I like the higher ceiling plays, but Johansson at 4,600 definitely in play. Barry's back for Colorado. I think if you're going to use Colorado tonight, I don't know how high I am on Colorado tonight. No pun intended. I just don't think they're a very good play tonight. This is a tough matchup for them. Nashville's great defensively. They're way better at home. I think they're going to have ownership based off their last game. And, I hope they're chalky because this is a rough matchup for them. I'm probably going to fade Colorado altogether. Might have Sam Girard one off if I need the salary. Rene Highest cash goalie. Definitely possible. It might be. I'm just looking through the goalies again. I think you may be right. I think Rene is probably going to be the highest cash goalie. For sure. Do you really want to use Scott Darling in cash? Probably not. Vasi's probably going to be up there as well. I don't even know who's starting for Colorado tonight. It's either going to be Varlamov or Bernier. Either don't scare me at all. I want a ton of Nashville exposure tonight. So let's move on to the two late games. We have the St. Louis Blues traveling to Vancouver to face the Canucks. It's going to be Jake Allen against Anders Nielsen. I love St. Louis again tonight. They're an elite line. They were super low owned last time out. They're going to not be as high as they should be. I mean, this is a great matchup for them. They're 19,800 to full stack. As a line, they're projected for a little over 1 goal tonight, which is, I think, the highest on the slate, to be honest with you. Oh, no. Yeah, no, it is. They're the highest expected goals for this line tonight. I just love it. And the thing is, I really love Nashville too, or Nashville, 2. So Nashville 1 and St. Louis 1 are very hard to fit in together. You have to get real creative on defense. But that will keep those two teams together, low owned. Shen, Schwartz, Tarasenko, love it. They're going to get God knows who. Either way, it's not going to be pleasant for Vancouver. If you can fit, if you're using a cheaper line, Alex Pietrangelo at 6,300 definitely is the person I want to use. If not, Pyarko 4,400 is okay, but I think Markstrom's not in net tonight, and I want nothing to do with Nielsen. I think Joel Mundison at 4,100 is a decent play as well. Other than that, and not really punting too hard with the Blues. I want Jake Allen tonight. He's been playing great. I know Vancouver has can score the Horvat line, but this is a tough matchup for Vancouver. They're just outclassed everywhere. St. Louis is better in every facet of the game: physicality, speed, even strength, special teams, power play, PK, goaltending. This is a great spot for the Blues. This is a really tough spot for Vancouver. I'm probably going to full fade Vancouver, except if you need like a deep hunt. Edler probably is going to block a ton of shots tonight. He's 3,400. Pouliot has a little bit of offensive upside. Same with Del Zotto, but again, I'm probably not going to have any exposure to the Horvat Barchi Bozier line. It's just unfavorable. St. Louis, too, I think is in a good spot as well. They're going to get depth of Vancouver, Stastny, Steen, and Sobotka. Yes, I'm a broken record saying I wish Stastny would shoot more, but he is a good playmaker. I don't know. They played really well in Edmonton a couple days ago. I just think this is a great spot for them. I love the Blues, just like I love Nashville, just like I love... Well, I love Tampa, but I don't love the situation they're in because of ownership. But yeah, second line definitely in play. Steen's been playing really well. I think you can go there as well. I want Jake Allen tonight. This is a great spot for him. You can use him in cash, I think, even though he's on the road. You can use him in GPPs. Overall, this is a good spot. So let's move on to the last game of the night. We have the Boston Bruins traveling to San Jose to face the Sharks, who killed me the other night. It's probably going to be Martin Jones against Anton Khudobin. What do we do in this game here? What do we do? Is it Dell? Oh, that's nice. I like Dell. I'm a Dell guy. I don't know how much I like the Sharks tonight. I don't really like the Sharks tonight. I kind of like Dell just because after, the top line for Boston, it just gets ugly. I think Dell's better than Jones. I don't know if my resident Shark fan listeners in here are going to blast me for it, but I believe Dell is better than Jones. That being said, not a huge fan of the Sharks tonight. Obviously, you want to get if you want to use Brett Burns, I think he's a great late hammer. He is way overdue to score. Maybe that has something to do with Tim Heed being a beast on the power play. But if you watched the game the other night, Brett Burns literally just peppered the net the last 5 minutes of the game. He is long overdue. I always like getting exposure to Burns in the late game. This is a weird matchup. I don't really have too much interest either way in this game. Not too high on the Boston top line. I honestly think I'm going to full fade this game, to be honest with you, 100% honest. Maybe I'll have some Burns. Krejci did play last game. Burns is back up to 7,000. It's pricey. I don't mind using Burns. I don't mind using Heed. But again, other than that, Krug is still day-to-day. You want to use Charlie McAvoy. I'd much rather use the defenseman in this game than really... Joe Thornton is down to 4,000. He's just not healthy. I don't mind Tomas Hertl as a one-off or Pavelski as a one-off. But again, I just... From a DFS standpoint, I think I'm gonna full fade this game and just hope, people don't need it to catch up on my winning lineup tonight. Um, in net, I don't mind Anton Khudobin at 7,000. He's playing really good. Boston's depth does concern me, but I think he's a viable GPP punt. Aaron Dell is pricey at 8,200, and I wish he was cheaper, but I think you can make a case in cash. Not a huge fan of GPPs. So that covers the 8-game slate. You guys have any questions before I go into my strategy part, which is, context selection, bankroll management, stuff like that. Fire away, any questions. I'll answer anything, strategy, life. We'll go from there. Pick'em segment? I can do that. Okay. Minnesota. I like the Zucker, Koivu, Granlund line. Or, yeah. I don't mind Stahl, Niederreiter, Mini. So let's pull these back up here. Okay. Favorite value D-man. Matthias Ekholm can fit St. Louis one. Yes, you can do that. Most of the goalies that I like are a tad cheaper tonight. That's just usually how it is for me. I don't mind Pekka Rinne at 7,900, especially if you're using Nashville. If you're using St. Louis, Jake Allen. Let's go drop down some of these cheaper ones. Scott Darling at 7,200 is an interesting play. Not too thrilled about goalie today. Something about Saturdays and goalie. Favorite game stacks. Yeah, I like Darling to bounce back tonight as well. Game stack, Islanders, Tampa Bay. That's a pricey one, a game stack. Chicago, Pittsburgh. And probably Minnesota, Washington. Although that's definitely third on the list. Yes. Yes. That's all I'm going to say to that. Yes. So let's transition into some strategy. Are you guys mostly cash? You guys GPP players? You guys do both? What do you want to hear about? I've been doing this for a long time. Not to say that I have the perfect method for it, but okay, I am mostly a GPP player as well, so this is gonna be good. Yes, there's also the combo players. So I think one of the biggest things in DFS is bankroll management and contest selection. Almost more so contest selection than bankroll management. So you see that DK runs that $8 150 max, and then they have the $3 sniper that's 20 max. People get, I'll get to that in a second. People get so asphyxiated with the top prize on the GPP. Oh, 10,000 the first, 8,000 the first, and then they see the $3 sniper, 20 max that only has $2,500 first, and they're like, I don't want to play it. Now let's be real. Let's be real for a second. How often are you going to be up at the top winning that? How often? I have been playing DFS full time. This is my third NHL season. I have won the 8, the 3, a combined 3 times. Right. And that's important because you have guys dropping 150 lineups in there. The prize pools aren't big enough for guys throwing 150 lineups. It is much better to enter the lineup into the $3.20 max. This is like the big thing in contest selection. Everyone gets so enamored. Like the best example I can use is the football millie makers. The football millie makers are the worst structured GPPs in the history of DFS. It is so bad. The biggest thing is if you're like a 1-2-3 lineup type of guy, you really need to find, while you're still building a bankroll, okay, until you, like, say you get a big hit. Like, I'll give you my personal story real quick, not to like toot my own horn, okay? I deposited, when I first started playing, all the millies are bad. So I was playing casually when I was like 4 or 5 years ago. I deposited $25, would play some playoff NFL. I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing, to be honest with you. And so after I sold my restaurant, I decided to play DFS full time. So what I did was I deposited $250, and I had a very strict bankroll management until I got to a comfortable point. So, like, yeah, you hear people say, oh, the 10-15% rule, you shouldn't play more than 10% of your bankroll. And I get that. I think that is a fair way to go about building a bankroll. So if you have $200 as a bankroll, you shouldn't play more than $20 to $30 a night in GPPs. But the GPPs you need to enter should be, you know, the 3 maxes, the single entries, regardless of what the prizes are. So if you hit, right, in a 3 max, say you win the $12 single entry for $750, right? The chances that that single entry is going to win the $8 150 max, unless you absolutely crush, you're probably going to make more money winning the $12 single entry than you would finishing top 1% in the 8. So that's a way to build the bankroll. Once your bankroll starts growing, you can enter the. I would put, well, it depends on your process, really. The biggest thing is, like, there is no right way to do this, right? You have to find what you're good at and triple down on that. Stop trying to be someone else. You see, like me, I play in the high stakes, and you just wish you can get up there. Trying to force your way into high stakes, you're going to lose. You need to find what's good for you and stick there. That is the most important thing. If you are crushing 3 max and cash, stay in 3 max and cash. If you are a great MME player and you want to get in the 8 and the 3, stick to that. Stick to what you're good at. It's not that you didn't learn how to play the other ways. It's just you know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and just be smart about your bankroll. So if you hit big, don't get too high on the highs, don't get too low on the lows, especially in GPPs, because GPP is such a volatile swing. You can go. I went almost a full month without cashing MLB 2 years ago in June, and it was just nuts. I just lost. But that's what it is. Like, it's such a volatile swing. Yeah, GPP. Being a GPP only player is extremely difficult, and if you're just a one lineup guy on top of that, it is unreal how hard it is to compete with the 150 max players who are just throwing everything together. So like the days you crush as the single lineup guy, you are gonna crush. So you just have to stick to doing what you're doing. And to be honest with you, if you're building a bankroll, there's no real reason to chase milli makers. There's no real reason to chase qualifiers. There's no... That just eats bankroll. That just eats it. Now, playing for tickets is a little bit different story. What did you do from 250 you build up? So what I was doing... so I deposited 250. It was NHL season. So what I would do back then, there was a $3 sniper. There was a $27 face-off. No, I wasn't going all in every night. I would play for $35. I would play a $3 sniper, the $27 face-off, and a $5 double up, which was, kind of dumb. But at the time, the double up cash line was much lower than the GPP cash line. So if I busted out of the GPPs, at least I could rebound some money in the double up. And I did that. I just kept doing that. That was what I did. And then I ended up getting lucky. I ended up winning both of those in the same night, which was a Tuesday night special, $20. I ended up taking home 10 grand. And then I slowly built my way up into the next stakes. Like I went up occasionally and played the $50. I went up occasionally and played the $100, and I started having success there. But you have to stick to your game plan. So if you're playing the two GPPs, you just play two, okay? Like if you're a one lineup guy, even if you're a two lineup guy, put those lineups in the same spots, right? Don't be like, oh, I'm going to put this one in the 8, I'm going to put that one in the 3, because what happens if you get them wrong and it's flip-flopped and you want a ton of money if you put that one there, this one there? Be consistent, put the same lineups in the same spots. Consistency, patience. Yeah. You just have to have patience, consistency. You play 3 lineups per night, but what do you consider the best? 1 core? That's up to you. You got to find your niche. Like, for me, when I play NBA, yeah, if you can get down to 1 lineup, put that 63-point lineup in both. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but you put the lineup in both, and then you crush both. But for me, good practice playing 40 plus lineups, put $40 in something. Yeah, the quarter arcade's great to practice MME because you max enter that. It's only $5. And so you have a great night. You can make good money in the quarter arcade. And it's a great tool to learn what works for you if you're an MME player. Like if you're making all different kinds of lineups, if you have a tight core, like that's a really good way to experiment on what you want to do. I know $5 is a lot to some people. I'm not discounting that at all. But it's better than putting 20 lineups in the 4 when you can't afford it. You can play around a little bit with strategy in the quarter arcade. You can find ways to make things work, and then when you're comfortable and the bankroll's building, you can move up to the $1. Yeah, playing for tickets is underrated. That's what I do as well. I will find my top couple lines. So if I'm going to MME, I'm going to identify top couple of lines, like 3 lines, and then I'm going to pair them with 6 other lines that I like with everybody, and just kind of just put that all together. So like, did the audio die? Can you hear me? Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. Still good? Okay. So, so like this is the thing. Like I think a tight core Again, this is just my opinion. There's hundreds of different opinions, but for me, a tight core is the way to MME because, say, just from a caching perspective, um, say you went all in on one team, 20 lineups, all in one team, mix it up, right? And that one team goes off. You're going to cache almost all those lineups, especially with this if one of those secondary lines is going to go off too. So you have a good chance to win. You have a higher chance at a high volume cache. Like the other way, you might have only one lineup that crushes and the other 18 are just like a mess because you went all over the place. You spread yourself out too thin. So volume caching sometimes is better than winning a tournament with one lineup out of 20, because you get to that second, third tier cash level with 15 of those lineups, you're going to make a great amount of money. But the biggest thing, again, is finding what you're good at and staying there. Don't be someone you're not. Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to identify a core. If your core misses, you're gonna lose. But the thing is, if your core hits, you're gonna crush. You look at all these NBA, MLB, NHL core MME players like Testosterone, Z Savior, guys like that. When they crush, they absolutely demolish the field. They are all over the top 50. And it's almost always the same lineups. They have different tweaks, a little tweak here and there, but it is the tightest core. So when the core hits, they absolutely destroy a field. And if you notice, like, one of the things you can do is something I did was I would always try to get the CSV for ownership. I would try to get, I'd always look at the winning lineups to see what kind of lineup it was, 4-3-1, 3-3-2, just a mismatch of crap, and I like to study those lineups, and you're like, damn, that was so simple, but no one else did it, You see a 4-3-1 lineup, and you're just like, wow, that was simple, but it's really not that easy. So many things have to go right. But that's a big thing, like study the winning lineups. Like generally the same guys are up there for a reason. I think it's it helps you understand the mindset a little bit. Maybe I'll start doing more lineup reviews, my thought processes, stuff like that. Since I'm always on camera, it would make sense, to do a lineup review, that kind of stuff. It'd be better than writing. For me, I can go through building lineups with you guys. I can go through my processes and stuff. Yeah. That's what I'm here for, man. I like to help. I want to see you guys get better. I want to see the product grow. Nice. You guys have been doing better than me this season so far. Who would you consider to be the top lines tonight? I like Nashville won, St. Louis won, Tampa Bay won, even though they're going to be chalky. I'm fading them. DFO doesn't do the notebooks on the weekends. Brock has commitments that he has to do, but we do it Monday through Friday. It is a very useful tool. Yes, I like Minnesota as well. For Pick'em, you want to go through tiers real quick. This is what I'll say about Pick'em. I haven't played too much Pick'em, so I'm not really I wouldn't even come close to calling myself an expert in Pick'em. But the few times I've had success in Pick'em is I've stacked. I think people just be like, oh, this guy, blah, 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 and just plug in random people. But how do you win in Classic NHL? You stack a line. The same thing's in play. It's the same scoring. You stack. Stack and pick 'em, and I think you'll have more success than just plugging away. obviously you're going to win once in a while just hitting the nuts, plugging in people. Um, but you want some correlation with your lineups for sure. And you always have that weird like 6th tier or 8th tier where it's just like a big mess. You just hope you find like the low owned guy who goes off. But for me, the nights I have success, I try to correlate my lineups. It just, it makes sense. And like there's tiers where there's one-off guys that I like to use as one-off in GPPs. Like if you see Skinner in there, I always like to use Skinner. But other than that, I like to correlate my lineups for sure. Top 3 goalies for GPP. I like Rene. I like Jake Allen. On the cheaper end, I like Darling. I'm missing somebody. Dubnik's not a bad option. Goalies really, I like Dell. What's my username on DK? It is, unsurprisingly, JRH002. It is the same Avi as my Twitter handle. I do like Kudobin tonight. I think this is a real weird matchup in that game. I like Dell and Kudobin in that game. Yeah, Torts. Yeah. Oh, is it going to be Stalak? Yeah, I don't want any Stalak. I'm not a big Stalak guy. I'm still not a huge Washington guy. That maybe bumps him up a little bit, but Washington needs to prove they can actually do stuff first. Defense metrics, how how I go about choosing defensemen for GPPs based off their metrics. Like their Corsi numbers, I don't know what you're looking for. Possession numbers. Oh, I'll just take a guess. So for me, when I'm looking to, what you look to target against teams and lines, yeah. So what I like to do is I like to try to identify. So let's just use I don't know. Let me just use an example here. So say I really want to use the Colorado or the Nashville Predators tonight. So I'm going to look at Tyson Barrie. Who their top defensive pair is. So I'm going to look at Barrie. I'm going to look at their possession numbers. If their possession numbers, the couple things I look at are possession, scoring chances against per 60, and high danger scoring chances per 60. So if a team's in a favorable matchup and I see that their top defensive pair struggles giving up shots, giving up high danger scoring chances, their possession numbers are bad, definitely boost me into using that offense more. And on the flip side, when I'm looking to use defensemen, defensive metrics don't really matter to me when, locking in defensemen to use on DK. What I like to see is offensive zone start time, if they're on the power play, the possession numbers again, stuff like that. It's obviously easier to identify with the elite defensemen. Brent Burns is going to see a ton of offensive zone starts. But someone like Nikita Zaitsev, he's seeing with Toronto is seeing almost 80% offensive zone starts, and his Corsi percentage is 37. It's just so bad. There's just teams like that. It just blows my mind. But yeah, the things I really look for are possession, scoring chances per 60, high danger scoring chances per 60, and that zone starts. So one thing I like to mention a bunch is how poor, say, the Tavares line is defensively. So you look at their Corsi numbers, you look at their possession. It's almost the same thing. So you look at how many scoring chances they're giving up per 60, high danger scoring chances per 60, possession numbers. You can get them at Corsica. If Corsica is still a little bit slow, Nat Stat Trick has a nice line feature now. It's really easy to pull up. If you actually look on the YouTube channel, I know AD has a line matching tutorial. It also goes through those kind of numbers a bit as well. But yeah, Corsi numbers, possession, scoring chances allowed, etc. Scoring chances for. It's just there's usually you can tell the outliers pretty much right away. Of course, that's why I'm here. I should have done this earlier. I tried doing it yesterday, but I didn't have time. I have no issue coming on and talking strategy, talking any other subject besides the slates, like if you want, stuff like that. Yeah, 80's article on that stat trick is good. Can you rate your experiences with each site for NHL? I like DK better. Admittedly, I am VIP on DK. I'm not VIP on FanDuel. So if I have issues, I just email VIP. They get back to me really quick. They've been letting me know. Like, I'm not really sure. It's got to be I don't know. One day I got an email like, "Congratulations, you're VIP." But like the good thing, I've been talking to some of their guys. They did say that they are expecting the contest to grow after Thanksgiving because the Thursday NFL games kind of get moved to Saturday. So it's all like a huge thing. So look for the NHL GPPs to get bigger going forward, especially after NFL is over. You will see growth on the bigger slates. Compared to how it was a few years ago, we're slowly moving in the right direction. I think people are starting to realize that there is interest in NHL, and I think they are going to start growing. FanDuel, I haven't really run into a customer service issue because I don't really play too often. I play MLB over there, and that's about it. But, even though DK handled the slate cancellation poorly last Saturday, they do a decent job. It is a business, and you have to put yourself in their shoes once in a while. Yeah, they do go away from. I don't know. I would love to be a fly on the wall when they're trying to decide contests and contest sides and stuff. I know they have a ton of data, but I don't know. I think they're doing a poor job analyzing it. So, there's a bunch of us who keep in constant contact, talking to them about, because, I think the most valuable thing to them besides data is the actual players, being involved. And that's why you see guys like Matt Bernbach and John Aguilar be so readily available. Those guys take a ton of fucking heat on Twitter, and they just sit there and take it. But if you have a real opinion, if you have a real issue, they will take the time to listen to you and pass it on to the people that make those decisions. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go after them, just be like, oh fuck this sucks, blah blah blah. Then they're not gonna listen to you. But if you're like, hey, like, if you present them, yeah, that's another issue. They do deserve a lot of credit, man. They take a beating. But if you say, hey, man, like, just curious why this hasn't grown, they'll give you a real answer. They if you treat them well, they'll treat you well. Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of the argument. I don't really want to get into NFL with that, but I get it. It's kind of a rake grab. Um, yeah, I much prefer DK too. I understand with the rake, but really, when it comes to rake, like, it is an issue, but you're not going to stop playing because the rake's going up. Eventually, I think there's going to have to be policy that is passed where it's just like a flat rate. Even if it is like 12, 13%, it's fine, right? So maybe it's a national policy, who knows? But yeah, there's rake everywhere. It doesn't really affect the day-to-day player. I'm going to win yeah, yeah, do that. But like, um, all the little, like, it sucks for the low stakes grinders because the rake is so much higher there. The higher you go, the less the rake is. But still, I get it. It's a business. Yes, they will have a live final for NHL. They've done it the last 3 years. I don't know. It's probably going to be. I would assume it's going to be in the same spot as NBA this year, which is in LA. They were in Miami last year. I always aim for it. I've made a whole bunch of online finals. I took a horrible beat last year. It is so hard to qualify for a live final. I took a horrible beat in a 1K qualifier in January, and that was the closest I got last year. But I finished MLB, MMA, and NHL. I finished top 5 or better in live final queues probably 10 times. I've made a bunch of the the online finals for MLB and MMA. I have a ticket for that one coming up soon, so would love to go to a live final though. So I'm definitely going to be aiming for it this year. So, do you ever light the candles behind you? Uh, Sometimes. Not since I got divorced, no. This is the only good spot in my house with good lighting. Unless I want to do unless I do my show from my Corvette, but yeah. So that will wrap it up. Good little conversation today. I'll do more things like this. I don't have any action on the early slate. I slept through the early slate because I am a waste of life right now. But I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure how many games there are. If it's like 3 or under, I'll probably do another like strategy type deal. We can, if you guys have ideas other than me just breaking down the slate on shorter slates, I'm down for whatever. Maybe I'll get a couple guests on here and there, and we can, go through different strategy, lineup building, that kind of stuff. 5 games tomorrow. Jesus. Yeah, it's probably going to be a 5-game main slate then. So yeah, I'll probably hop on for sure. We'll talk about the slate. We'll talk about some other things. So tonight, win some money. Tilt some NFL. I have some money out in MMA tonight too, so I'm gonna watch some hand-to-hand combat tonight, and then we'll be back tomorrow. We'll figure out stuff to talk about. So as soon as I hit end, it will be uploaded. Do you charge Or do you change the goalies? Sorry. Do you change the goalie in all the lineups, or do you stay on a couple goalies? Um, for the most part, I'll go in on one or two goalies. I don't want to mix it up too much. I don't want to spread myself out too thin. Uh, I'm a tight core, and when I MME, I'm tight core, and I almost take a stand usually on the goalie. So I'm all or nothing. I usually start 3 o'clock. Around 3 o'clock is generally when I start. I like to, get all the skate information I can. I like to prepare, um, and I always still make mistakes anyway. I like to know all the lines, all that kind of stuff, and I still make mistakes. No, I'm not in the 300 tonight. Uh, I threw a couple lineups into the 40. I played in the penalty kill the other night. I didn't do well, but um, if I didn't have a bunch of MMA action, I'd hop in the 300 tonight. But I'm playing in the $40 shootout and down tonight. So we'll see you guys tomorrow, and good luck, everybody.